Welcome everyone. My name is Kristen Depew and I'm here with the Jefferson County Post, and our guest today is Katy Huffaker, who is Commissioner for Jefferson County District 1, which is the greater Dandridge area. She is also, beyond being a commissioner that sits with the full body, she is the Vice Chair of the Budget Committee. She sits on the Facilities Committee. She is on the Public Service Committee. She is, wait, I'm missing another one besides the long range planning, Katy. Which one?
Finance.
The Finance Committee, yes. And in her capacity today, she is the chair of the Long Range Planning Committee. And before we get started with Katy, I want to thank our sponsor for this video, Dr. Warren Stinson. He's at 113 East Broadway in Jefferson City, and he's a great place to visit for all your dental needs. So thank you, Dr. Stinson, for your support. Katy, we're going to jump in. So we're going to talk today about the Long Range Planning Committee and the recent survey that was done. And when I say recent, it's been a little while, but it's now getting out to the public, and you guys are starting to try to break down that information and, I guess, decide how you're going to move. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the survey. The survey was done by an outside company, correct?
Yes. And
it was facilitated through online and also through meetings. You all had town hall meetings, correct?
Yes. So the Long Range Planning Committee actually facilitated it. The County Commission approved it. IBI, Arcadis, that was the company that we hired to do it. And so they helped us do a Jefferson County Community Engagement Survey. And so as part of that, we had 3 in-person location meetings. One was at the high school, one was at New Market Elementary, and one was at Talbot Elementary, where citizens could come. IBI Arcadis was there to answer questions, and the Long Range Planning Committee was there to answer questions. They had storyboards where you could physically put a dot where you wanted the focus to be, and they could write comments. And then we also did an online survey, and then some hard copies were distributed too as well. Marketing, we used QR codes. It was marketed in the online paper, the Jefferson County Post, and also the Standard Banner. There were flyers placed in local businesses. Postcards were handed out with the QR codes. We approached public service workers, and then emails were sent to the county employees and the school employees, among other things. So
the long and short of that is that you all made a tremendous effort to reach as many people as possible. Now, at the end of the day, you had around 2,000 respondents. I think about 70 of them actually attended a meeting to meet, and then most of them did online or via their workplace or whatnot. So let's talk a little bit about the people who responded so that people understand who these demographics are, who responded. So in looking at some of the information, and that information will be on the Jefferson County Post shortly, we'll be putting up a kind of a snapshot of the survey. So most of the people that responded, the most underrepresented group of people were people who were, I would say, 40 and under. Is that fair?
Yes. So 50% of the respondents were ages 45 to 65.
Right. And then under 30 was really low.
The least.
Yeah, the least. And then quite a bit more women than men responded. So it was geared more toward women response than men response. I would say 2 to 1 almost. And then we also noticed in the survey that one of the things that was asked was about, how long have you lived here? What is your occupation? And about 60% of the people who responded have lived here 25 years or less. and then the rest of them were, and that's correct, right? When I looked at the demographics, and you can check my numbers on that, I don't have them right in front of me, but I looked at them right before I came. There was a large group that was 40, had lived here more than 40 years, but then when you added up the other groups, that only represented a little more than 20% of the people who responded. And then the largest majority had lived here, yes, less than 21 years or 25 years, whatever that was.
I've got around 23% have lived in the county more than 40 years. 86% own their own home.
Right. So this is one of the things that we have in Jefferson County, and anyone who's gone to a meeting it can say that this is fair, is that there seems to be somewhat of a divide between long-term residents and people who have moved in as far as ideologically what they would like to see for Jefferson County. Now, that's not everybody who comes in, but there has been some noted differences between the two groups. And it would appear that some of the respondents, the majority of the respondents maybe have not lived here quite as long as long-term residents. So that, I think that just is important when we're looking at the data to see who's saying what about what.
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know where I wrote this.
And Katy is always very prepared. So I will go with her, whatever she says.
Well, I want to think greater than 90%, greater than 90% of everybody who filled out the survey wants to maintain the Jefferson County rural feel. So whether or not it's a move-in or it's somebody who's multi-generation, lived here their whole lives, almost everybody wants to maintain the rural feel.
That was one of the top response, and then also education was another area of concern, correct?
Yes, education, preserving the quality of the school systems, but preserving the agricultural land was another major, like if you went off the percentage, you could tell everybody, for the most part, is supporting maintaining our agricultural community.
And I think right now, this is important because I think we always have some confusion about this in Jefferson County, particularly with maybe with people who have not lived here as long. The Jefferson County Commission and your particular committee, you're talking about county property. You're not talking about city property. So every city has its own caveats that they have for different things. Dandridge would have it, White Pine would have it, Newmarket would have it, Jefferson City would have it. I think that's our only incorporated areas. So when the county, some of the complaints that have been noted on social media and different things are coming from people who maybe live inside the city and they're not liking the county. Can the county commission do anything about that if they're living inside the city?
No.
That is not your all's purview. That is not something that you can control.
One thing you may be talking about is planning commissions. So the county has a regional planning commission, but the cities have their own planning and zoning.
Yes. And so certain things, like for example, this would not be part of this, but possibly, if somebody was concerned about noise, or they're concerned about controlling events, or they're concerned about that's going to fall to cities unless it's on county property. So that's not something that you all can control even within the Long Range Planning Commission.
Well, we don't have a noise ordinance.
Right.
Which maximum noise level was in this survey too, and I forget what the percentage was, but most people wanted to see a maximum noise ordinance, I guess. We don't have that currently in the city.
I think you have
in the county, but the city does.
There was something in the county several years ago in regard to the music venue, and it did have a decimal thing attached to it, I think. And I don't know, I think that did, at that point, it resulted in some back and forth, but as you said, there's a lot of things inside the city that the county, that's just not the county's deal. They can't control that. So tell me this. So agriculturally, so are they looking for zoning? What do you think people are looking for?
So I think what drove the survey was because a lot of citizens were upset with our current zoning. And so they were upset with especially the A1 zone because it seems like a dumping ground for so many things. And so that was a driving force in it. The debate, are we a bedroom community? Do we want to stay a bedroom community, or do we want to have economic growth? We had the big housing boom after COVID, so that was driving it with the influx of people. And then there were large areas around us with development that was going on, such as exit 407 or up near past Newport. So those were driving factors for our survey.
And so most people who took this survey are interested in keeping some of the rural feel of the area. They're not interested in becoming a more urban type of situation. And that was kind of across the board. That was an across the board result of this survey.
Yes.
So in keeping that rural feel, how is the Long Range Planning Commission committee going to interpret that in what they send to the full body? What kind of action do you think needs to be taken to do that?
So I think, so we have a regional planning commission or committee, and they've been trying to revise the land use plan for a while, but we haven't gotten to the end result yet because the meetings last so long. So they really don't have time in their regular meeting to do that. So once the land use plan is revised, the zoning document needs revised too. And so your zoning document could control part of that, whereas the survey revealed that for commercial properties, the majority of the respondents would like to see landscaping, improved landscaping. It wasn't worded as setbacks, but there were pictures in the survey. Did you like this, the way this looks and feels better, or the way this one looks and feels better? So the image with the sidewalks, landscaping, increased setbacks, building design, control, those were what people chose. So to me, the zoning document would need revised where you can control some of that stuff. And you could increase your lot size if you wanted to in the ag area. But I think the Long Range Planning Committee needs to work with the zoning. Not zoning, I said it wrong. Regional planning.
To plan for.
And we need to revise our zoning document.
And that regional planning also involves the cities, correct? In an external way. Certain things go through that planning, and then they go to the cities for approval too, so that everybody can kind of be on board with the same.
So when we revise a portion of our zoning document through a resolution, it goes from regional planning to the cities to county commission. And so the cities don't necessarily have to agree with it, but they have to see it. And then the county commission can decide if they're going to adapt it or not.
Okay. So the cities have some input
Yes.
by their approval or not adopting.
I can give you an example that recently happened. A resolution went through, it went to the cities. The cities did not approve it, and they stated why. It came back through the county commission. Then we revised it again, and it's starting back through the process again, based on what the city said.
Okay. So this is not a fast fix.
No.
It's long range. It takes much planning. There's a lot of thought and work process that goes into it. So people who expect, well, we're just going to change the zoning and it's just going to happen tomorrow and that's not going to happen. That is not the process that this takes. It's months and possibly even years.
Well, it has to be well thought out, and then once the revisions are made, everybody, all the departments that your building department or your environmental or whoever it affects, your zoning office, everybody will have to know what the new rules are, so we follow those rules, because the last thing we want to do is put a new rule book in place and then not follow it, which sets precedents that
So as the chairman of the Long Range Planning Committee, what are you planning to take before the county commission? Are you all getting together something to present to them as far as recommendations? What is the process? What's the next step?
What I personally think should happen, well, our last meeting, we addressed roads. So we asked the road commissioner or the road superintendent to give us counts on the roads, because people are concerned about the roads, because with all this new growth, all the new construction, the roads are breaking down quicker than they would have. So, but my personal opinion is that the long-range planning needs to work with regional planning and determine, do we need to hire a third party to revise our zoning and our land use plan, or are we capable of doing it on our own but having a path forward on trying to improve our zoning document?
So do you feel like, and this is a personal opinion, but you sit on a lot of committees and you go to a lot of meetings. Do you feel like the zoning is the #1 issue that's facing Jefferson County right now?
I think the citizens speak more about the zoning in our public comments section than anything else.
Yes.
And budget.
I have also noticed that does seem to be the driving force behind the citizen comment. I mean, occasionally get other things, obviously, but so when you take this, you work up something, then it's going to go to the county commission for approval. So I'm going to ask for an opinion again. I'm going to put you on the hot seat. Do you feel like there is an appetite with the county commission to do widespread rezoning, or widespread, I guess, altering the zones and the parameters in those zones?
Well, I don't think people would want to make huge sweeping changes in how people are zoned. So I think part of it is you have to determine what should be an agriculture zone. What makes sense to be an A1? You know, and are there designations in there that we have currently that actually should be somewhere else? But I don't think you can go across the board and change everybody's personal property to a different type of zone. You know, I don't think that's realistic.
I know that one of the challenges that you face in long-term planning is that we have some very distinctive areas in Jefferson County. So, you know, Dandridge has one face. Jefferson City has an entirely different face. Newmarket and Strawberry Plains have another face. White Pine has another face. They all have different needs. And meeting those needs across the board and having some sort of a unified plan that everybody can live with, I'm sure is quite challenging. So how does that come together? Because a lot of counties are not like that. A lot of counties don't have those super distinctive areas, you know, but we really and truly do in Jefferson County.
I will have to say for Dandridge, we promoted a retirement community. Heavily we were successful at it. Now we're promoting tourism. So now you have your retirees upset, some of them, with all the tourism that's coming in. So even though you think, and that would be Dandridge and county, I mean that would be city and county both doing it, but you're selling one thing one day and then economically you're changing to something else another day, which, you know, they're both great to have, but you have to, everybody lives in peace and harmony. So you have to figure out where the happy medium is. And like you're saying, you go across to Jefferson City, well, they have the new industrial area now. Like they have a hospital, they have a larger population, but they also have more probably subsidized housing. So there are distinct areas in the county, but I think one thing, or a big thing from the survey came out, was preserving and protecting agricultural areas. Well, to me, a lot of that too, it's not zoning, but it's education. So what programs are available to help the farmers? And if you're not a farmer, what can you do to help the farmers? So do we need to have more farmers markets, encourage people to shop local beef, local dairy? But like, I know Governor Lee just signed a new agreement to help the farmers. So I think we need to promote programs that are there, like conservations or whatnot, but let the farmers know what are available to them. And we need to educate the community too. Everybody needs to know what's available and how hard it is for the farmers to be able to survive, because it's easy for somebody to say, oh, I want the farmer to keep his farmland, but I'm going to take my 20 acres over here and I'm going to chop it up, I'm going to sell it to the highest bidder and put a bunch of housing on it, but yet you expect the farmer to keep his 100 acres or whatever he has, and it's harder for them to financially make ends meet.
And I think generationally also, you run into the problem that just as the world changes, we have few farmers, particularly small farmers. You know, farming is either big business or it doesn't make it very well. And so you have these, you know, the next generation who are inheriting these farms, and they can't financially run this farm, and they can't financially maintain the property. And so, you know, that's their inheritance. That's what they do with it. So there is you know, Jefferson County has been very, very proactive about eminent domain and about property owner rights. There comes a time when sometimes that's at odds between what the community wants and what the private owner wants. So, is there a way to bridge that? I mean, do you think that there's something that Jefferson County can do? You mentioned farmers markets and that type of thing, but I think that in order, and that may work for your gentleman farmer, but that's probably not going to sustain a family. So how do we do this in Jefferson County? What are we going to do to keep these 100-year farms and yet be able to have our families feed themselves, because poverty level is pretty high in Jefferson County. So, you know, we kind of are at a divide there. And then while you're dealing with that, while you're dealing with trying to balance what people want and what people need, then you've got your second thing that came in, which was education. And of course, you know, there's just been a big divide on Jefferson Elementary School, and it is now going to be, my understanding is it's going to be renovated rather than building a new school. But what is the Long Range Planning Commission's responsibility when we're talking about education as far as presenting to the county commission? Are we talking about, you said on the facilities committee too, are you talking about facilities? Are they talking about programming? Because that's kind of outside the purview of what the county commission can do. So where do you think that's headed?
So you're talking about, the survey said maintain quality schools.
Yes.
So I think the school board, the county commission is the funding body for the school system. So if a new building has to be done, we are the group that approved the monies, but we don't micromanage the project or the facilities. So I know with the new wheel tax that passed, the $35, $5, well, you go by percentage, but would go to the schools for capital projects. So that would be new monies that would help them with projects that they might need, which is not a ton of money, but you know, it's a little bit of money. So I think another irony is the cities control the majority of the concentrated housing, yet they don't have city schools, so it's up to the county to provide the schools, even though the majority of the growth should be in the cities rather than the county, but the county's providing the schools.
I know that in
So-
Dandridge, there has been quite a bit of growth in, I would say, starter family housing. But the Talbot area has truly boomed. And that school is at capacity already. So, I mean, is that something that when you present to the county commission, do you talk about that? Or do you wait for the school board to bring that to you?
I think, well, everybody hopefully is aware of the survey results. So I think it's important for the school board to know that the citizens want quality schools maintained. But the school system, the superintendent of school and the school board would determine if there's overcrowding and new facilities are needed. It wouldn't be that the county commission would know that information without them telling it to them.
So, and again, I'm going to put you on the hot seat here. So, would you be in favor of designating a penny, and as you may or may not know, when we talk about pennies, we're talking about property tax pennies. So each one is worth, like right now, 1 penny on your tax rate is worth $242,000. I get it 95%, which is what they budget. So would you be in favor of having a situation ongoing that designated some sort of funding for long-term planning?
Are you talking about for the schools?
No, I'm talking about just in general for the county.
I guess I'd have to see what it looked like and who determines where it goes. I mean, we had a hard time balancing the budget, so there were no extra pennies.
No.
We were negative pennies. So I think it's financially, at present, I think you would have to raise property tax even more to have a penny to set aside.
And let me interject here. You said you are the vice chair of the budget committee. I think you all did a fantastic job. I mean, you got it down to what, six pennies, or really like 5.5, but you can't do a half penny. So 6 pennies, and it was a job to get to that. It really was.
So I guess my answer is I'm not opposed to it, but I just don't see how financially today that we could do that. But I think in the future,
maybe that's part of the long-range plan.
But I think you'd have to be able to control what it is you're using the money for. So you wouldn't just want to stock up a bunch of cash and then it get used for something that's not to the betterment of the county.
Right. And I know that you all have struggled in the past with county buildings and coming to a consensus on funding, even in that regard. So what is your next step? Tell me exactly what the next step of the Long Range Planning Commission, under the helm of Commissioner Chairman Katy Huffaker, where are we going with this?
My personal opinion is we need to work with the planning and try to approach revising our zoning document.
So are we looking forward to a joint meeting? Is that what we're going to be looking at, do you think?
Well, I would like that, but unfortunately we've been having troubles just getting quorums out of our committee meetings. And that's sad to say, but that's the reality of it. So,
and this time of year is always more challenging, I know, but so when will you all sit down as a county commission and discuss this document that has come in? I mean, they paid for it, so they obviously want to see it. So.
Well, we just discussed it in our last meeting.
Okay. Yeah,
and the survey results are to be filed with the county.
Right.
But
there was no plan that was laid out.
Right.
So
this was just the raw data, essentially. Yes. So now we have to decide what we're going to do going forward. But this was to help us have a vision for the county and to give a good representation of what do you want to be when you grow up.
Yes. Okay.
And so like you were talking about the ag areas, it is extremely difficult because they've been getting eaten up every year. We have fewer and fewer. Some of this stuff is like a visual, like somebody told me once, if you take the subdivisions and you pack them in even tighter, but you put a buffer all the way around it with trees, well, you see the trees when you drive by, you don't see the houses, so people aren't, it's a visual, like a trick in a way.
It's like a shell game, kind of.
Yeah, but you still maintain a rural feel.
Right.
Even though you have the growth. So,
so maybe that's what you're looking at is a county situation where there's more green space. That's
green space, parks and recs. One of the indicators from the survey, the question was, what would you like to see most? And it was recreation.
right.
So, you know, I think that again requires some money, but I think there's things we could do to make more green space, I guess, in the county, which is what people would like to see. But the challenging part to all of this is I'm only one vote and one opinion. So you have to have enough majority in anything that we do.
Yes,
So-
that is true. And then once it comes out of your committee, you have to have a majority when it goes to the full body. So it is not, nothing is a fast process in government. It just isn't. And that's part of the checks and balances in government, is that you can't just push things through quickly. But it also becomes frustrating when you're trying to make decisions.
But I do feel like the majority of the commission is interested in making improvements to the county, and that's a great position to be in.
That is a great position to be in, and I do see on the horizon some changes to zoning. I think there have been enough pop-up incidences that there are people who are concerned about, the Piedmont community had their concerns. You have the concerns, I guess, in the Chestnut Hill area with their, so you have these things that are popping up, and they may be independent incidences, but they're affecting communities, smaller communities, but communities. And so I do think that those county commissioners are probably getting those phone calls. That would be my guess.
So to me, the zoning document, it's a living document. So really we should be probably noting every time there are questions or there's concerns, and then once or twice a year updating, revising our document. And
Right.
I think we haven't done a good job of that in the past.
Because this is not the first time we've done a survey in this vein. It's been several years. But before you were on the county commission, I know that they had done something similar, and I don't really think it ever got wings. It didn't, it was just sort of, it happened and then it went away. And so, this is a real investment that the county's made. So something would be nice if it comes of it. So when is your next meeting? When are you all meeting again? Do you know yet? Have you had?
I don't know when their next long-range planning meeting is.
So do you do that? Is that a quarterly situation? How are you all a standing committee? Is it a quarterly situation? Is it a?
We don't have standing meetings like the county commission,
Okay.
so we just call the meetings
So
when we need to. So we would need to call another meeting before too long. I think, well, and I'll have to say with the survey, I know a lot of people, myself included, spend a lot of time and effort on it. So I think it's a good survey. I think it gives us a lot of good information, and it's what we do with it that is important.
well, good luck moving forward with that. We appreciate you being here with the Jefferson County Post. We look forward to having you in this and other capacities, joining us again. You wear many hats. And congratulations on getting the survey. As I said, the information will be available on the Jefferson County Post shortly. Hopefully it will also be on the county website. They're working on getting that survey up for the county website. And thank you, Commissioner Huffaker, for coming in and sitting down with us and taking your time out of your day, and we look forward to seeing where this goes. Thank you very much for joining us, and look forward to seeing you in our next video.
Well, thank you for having me. And I also want to thank all the citizens who participated in the survey and the time. We had committees on the front side where we did data dumps and all, and they were great to participate and give us input. So that's another reason why I think the survey results have turned out as well as they have. So thank you.
Yeah, and that is a good point to make. If you want your voice heard, attend the meetings. Thank you, folks. We'll see you next time.